So, welcome to my commute podcast. My name is Erin Mahone. I am the author of the soon-to-be-released book, Life, Motherhood, and the Pursuit of Sanity. I am the creator of It Runs in the Family, which is a blog and a one-woman show and a collective story series. In my 30s, I realized the importance of being kind to myself about who I am and about where I come from and about the reality of my life, and that the narrative of my existence on this planet could be something that I put in a negative light, or that I decided to embrace and be excited about. And so 7 or 8 years ago, I decided that it was time to become a gratitude zealot, to just become insanely grateful for every ounce of my existence. The good, the bad, the ugly, the embarrassing. To turn as much of it into humor as I could, and to reflect back on my family, my incredible, weird, crazy, dysfunctional family. And so I wrote a show called It Runs in the Family, where I talk about my grandparents and their struggles and triumphs, their lives. My grandfather lived with schizophrenia. My grandmother took care of him for 47 years, better or worse. And the reality of that is that, look, we know that even in the hard things, we get something from them, even in the struggles. So whatever her struggles, whatever her deficiencies, whatever it was, she filled them with the people in her life. And there's no judgment in that for me. It's just a sort of recognition of who my people are and how they navigated the world to the best of their ability, just like I do, just like you do, just like we all do. And I like to focus on the things they did really well. They were funny and filled with love. And I'm so enormously thankful for that, for what they taught me, how to handle a negative situation, how to put a spin on a thing that, feels gross and terrible and horrible. But at the same time, they were certainly flawed, and yet they loved each other, and they loved me, and I am certainly flawed. And just so this idea of being lovable, anyway, being lovable, being worthy of love and kindness and gratitude and generosity, and being worthy of good things to come to your life, being deserving, being invited to the party. That's a that's a lesson that the longer I live on this earth, it seems that every single one of us is trying to learn, right? Just that we are worthy of whatever invitation we want or we strive for. I live with anxiety and depression. Not enough to be completely debilitating, but enough to make life very challenging at times. Enough to help me very adequately get in my own way a lot of the time. Enough to make me feel insecure and inadequate in a way that then makes me feel this deep and significant desire to prove myself, prove my worth, prove all that stuff that I was talking about a second ago. So it becomes a very vicious cycle. I spend a lot of time thinking. I spend a lot of time ruminating on behavior and choices and the collective unconscious, the collective idea, that sort of Jungian theory that, we share the experiences of our communities and our ancestors, even if we didn't necessarily go through them, that somehow their experiences become lodged in our own consciousness, and that we carry around not only our own pain and our own confusion and our own doubts, but also those of the people in the communities that went before us. And I think that thinking, that thought process is goes to the speaks to the idea that we all truly are connected to one another. And as much as we try to separate and we try to break apart from the world, or say the us and them, or the the haves and the have-nots, or this religion or that political party or this part of the country or that part of the world, we're all the same. And we're all connected, and every human on this earth wants the same things. They want to be safe, and they want to be loved, and they want to feel purposeful. And life is about finding those things. Life is about answering the really big questions and filling those holes that are left by people and experiences and the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're allowed to be and have and do. I love asking those big questions and having those conversations and trying to understand the world and myself and you and what makes us tick and what emboldens us and empowers us and makes us passionate and excited, and also the things that confuse and confound and create generations and generations of sadness and darkness and difficulty and struggle. I am fascinated by how we interact with one another, how we become who we all so desperately strive to be, or to not be. Sometimes people go into their lives knowing only that they don't want a certain thing. And, law of attraction tells us that that's not an effective approach to life, and so do many other success experts. But whoever you are, and wherever you start, everything is possible. I believe that. There's a code that often needs to be cracked, but usually that code is internal. It's inside. It's not a thing that is outside of us. It's a belief, or it's a willingness to do what needs to be done in order to get where we want to go. And it's a understanding of the sacrifices that need to be made often, or the fact that sometimes what we want is either not in our best interest, or it's not really what we want, or we're not really willing to do or interested in doing the things that are needed to get to that place. So I'm in a really exciting and scary place in my life. My kids are getting older. My career is taking turns that I am excited and afraid of and overwhelmed by. I am standing on, the ledge, the precipice of the big leaps and the big successes, and some of it I can see very clearly, and some of it I cannot. So all of my work is as much for me as it is for all of you. I'm just a girl who keeps showing up and trying to figure out this very large, very, very confusing world. And what I have found throughout the course of, the writing of the book, and the writing and performing of the shows, and the story series, and the blogging, and the contributing that I've done to various publications and websites, is that it resonates, and these are questions that everyone asks themselves. So I'm excited to start this podcast, which, if I'm being totally honest with you, is terrifying and overwhelming, and I don't know how to do it right. I'm an avid podcast listener. I think that you'll see we're pretty bare bones right now. Right now, this podcast is getting, recorded on my phone, while I'm driving to work. So for now, that's how it's going to be. It's musings and it's ideas and it's thoughts and it's things I'm excited about, and it will morph into including other people that I think are really interesting, and we'll have hopefully exciting conversations about things that you find valuable and important. But I just decided that perfect is the enemy of done, right? I want to do this, and I've been putting it off because I couldn't do it perfectly. So it's not perfect. It's the first step. And the thing that I pride myself on, the thing that I feel best about in my life is that when I want to do something, I don't wait to know how. I just do it and I figure it out along the way. And the greatest things in my life have happened from those giant leaps of faith. The growing up as a child of multiple divorces, who decided that I would get married and that I would make that work. And 15 years later, here we are. And the surprise of our first child a little bit sooner than we had anticipated. And, 3 children later, 13 years later, here we are. Our daughter is getting ready to turn 13. And we've had our ups and downs, and we have had, significant trials and tribulations, and we've figured it out along the way. My jobs that I've had over the last decade have all been things that I didn't know how to do before I took them on, and I did, and I, tackled them, and writing a book and writing a show and going back to performing after taking a number of years off and learning how to perform jazz, which is really hard, and I'm, only okay at it, but I do it because I love it. And if I had one bit of advice for anybody, it would be that you don't have to know how to do a thing to do a thing. And as cliche as it definitely sounds, and I recognize that it sounds super cliche, you just have to take the leap. You just have to say, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to figure it out along the way, because the payoff is worth its weight in gold. It's worth the fear and confusion, and sometimes sadness, and sometimes failure, and sometimes, uncertainty, lots of uncertainty. It's worth it. And your life is worth being afraid. It is. You're reaching your potential and doing the weird, crazy things that you think you're not allowed to do because it's not reasonable or pragmatic. I'm not saying to be irresponsible. I'm not saying, to put your family at risk or to put your life at risk. But I'm saying that it's possible to get where you want to go. And yes, it takes time, and yes, it takes lots of energy, and yes, it takes an enormous amount of work. And there's no way around that. But if you want to do a thing, that thing is not impossible. And I say that to myself as much as I say it to you, because as many things as I have seen come to fruition, there are still days where I have sincere and significant doubts about where I'm going and whether or not it's possible, and how to make things go the way that I want them to go. So throughout this process, I will share with you my fears and my insecurities and the things that I learn along the way. And I will talk to people who are doing it, people who are putting one foot in front of the other, people who have faced incredible challenges and have overcome, or who are in the process of overcoming. people who I think are interesting and who I am inspired by, or who I am intrigued by, or who are doing a thing that I want to do in some way or another. We're just going to go on a journey of exploration together. And I am so excited to finally be taking this leap. I'm excited about my book. I'm excited about the show. I'm excited about all of the opportunities that I've been getting lately to write for some great publications, mostly online, and I'll share more of that later. I'm excited about the people that I'm getting to meet and the adventure that I'm on with It Runs in the Family, and with life, motherhood, and the pursuit of sanity, and with my incredible job as a cultural arts director, and with my singing and parenting and making a family and making a life and making mistakes and having success. So anyway, this feels like an incredibly long rant, but my commute is almost over, and I am now really excited to go forth and start my day and make it really great. So I hope you have a great day, no matter when you're listening to this. And I hope that you will subscribe, and I hope that you will comment, and I hope that you will come back, and I hope that you will be along on this journey with me and with us, and that we can build a community that is strong and supportive and kind and loving and tough and real and honest about the fact that life is hard, and you just have to keep showing up. And sometimes you know what you're doing, and sometimes you don't. Most of the time I don't know what I'm doing, but like I said, I figure it out, and then I know something I didn't know before. I guess we just can't be afraid to be afraid, and we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and the rest will come. So we're going to talk about mental health, and we're going to talk about art, and we're going to talk about creativity, and we're going to talk about demons and talents and hope and possibility and frustration, and we're going to talk about finding greatness in the midst of all of it. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining us, and please come back.